Hello, my name is Chase Hobbin and welcome to Editing in Photoshop. I'm going to be showing you how to use a variety of tools within Photoshop to make some pretty creative looking, interesting photos. And to start off with, as always, you're going to create a new document. And this document is going to be 750 by 450 with a resolution of 72. You can name it whatever you want and then hit OK. Okay, first thing we're going to use is our brush tool. Or not the brush tool, the paint bucket tool, sorry. And we're going to make sure that white is our background and whatever other color is our foreground. And we're actually going to change the foreground color by clicking, and we are going to change the color. Sorry, I was thinking. We're going to change the color to 010500, which is a very dark, almost black green. And then we're just going to click within our background to change the color. Okay. Now what you're going to want to do is create a new layer by clicking this button down here, and it creates a new layer for us. And now we're going to utilize our brush tool. You can see I already have it at the amount we need, which is 1,000 pixels. You're going to have the size of 1,000 pixels, the hardness at 0%, and you're going to choose a soft brush like this one here. And I'm actually going to zoom out a little bit just so I can get as low as I want to. And you're going to just make a singular dot at the bottom of your background, at the bottom of the canvas. Now what have I done? I forgot to change my foreground, my background colors. You can do that by switching the arrows or by clicking X. Now it should work. Yep. Alright. So now you're going to lower the opacity of this layer to about 70%. Okay, now we're going to add a little color to our image by first creating another new layer. And then we're going to readjust our brush to 600. It's kind of finicky, so it's a little easier to type. And we're going to leave everything else as is. And I'm going to zoom back in, actually, if I can get there. Yep. I'm going to go back to 75. And you're going to switch back to this dark color, and we're actually going to change it to an orange color. And that orange color is F38C11. Hit OK. And now put the dot of color right in the bottom right corner, like so. Okay. And so now we're going to add 2 more dots of color. The next one is going to be a light blue color at the code of 2A FA F0. Okay. And make another dot. And the last color is going to be purple. And the code for that is C94CE1. Hit OK. And put the dot of purple in the top center of the canvas. And now set the layer mode to overlay. Alright, so now I've got our color in there. So the next step is Alright, I'm back. Sorry about that. My computer froze up on me and I lost the project that I was working on. And so I real quick just recreated our colorful dots. And I believe what I was saying as it cut was that we are now going to create another new layer. But before I do that, I just wanted to mention something. You can get a little more purple color here if you create a bigger, kind of wider circle. So if you wanted to, you could go back and just delete this layer and hide the colors, and then you could just redo the white dot to be a little higher up, and then that'll give you a little more purple color in the top, which is just, again, it depends on your preference and just how much of different colors you want. Alright, so anyway, let's move on. Create a new layer by pressing that button. We're actually going to change the brush to all the way down to 60 pixels. And we're going to use soft white brush, so make sure that white is selected. And we're going to paint some lines that I'm going to just draw them, and then you just kind of want to copy, and it'll make a nice effect in the end. Like that. Another one right there. And then one more all the way there. And you could probably change different sizes if you wanted to, or just however you want to do it, but I'm just going to keep it like that, keep it simple. Okay, so now we're going to add a filter to this. We're going to go up to filter, and we're going to go to blur, and we're going to choose radial blur. So what you want is you want a radial blur of 70. And you're going to leave these options the same, and you're going to click OK. So then that's blurred it up. That's about the best as I can describe it. And so now you're going to set this layer to overlay. It's kind of added some nice, cool white effects in the background. Okay, so now here's actually where we get to add in our photo. And the picture I'm going to use is of my model, or I should say, my coworker, classmate, whatever you want to call him. He's basically a crazy person, as you can tell. And so, you're just going to, in this case, use the quick selection tool is how I'm going to use it. You can just make sure add, and then just add as much as of our friend Brandon here as we would like. So that means just kind of get all the shoulders, try and get the ears, as much of his hairdo as you want. Alright, that should be pretty good. So now, once you've made that selection, if you click, hold, and drop, and then just use the sizing handles. But okay, actually we're going to redo that. Okay. Okay, first just accept it, then undo, and we're going to actually hold the shift key, and that way we can do proportional drop. And I'm just going to accept that for now. And I'm going to put Brandon about right there. There we go. You can also, there's different tools you could use, but the quick selection tool is probably going to be the fastest way, especially if it's something like this, where it's probably not going to matter a whole lot necessarily to you. If you really want to get detailed, you could try using the pen tool. Sometimes the pen tool can be a little finicky though, so just whatever your preference is, I guess. And actually, let me just check something here. Yep, so it did add it in a new layer. And so it's important that it's in a new layer, because now what we're going to do is we're going to desaturate the image. And you can do that by going to Image, Adjustments, and then find Desaturate. But the way I'm going to actually do it is I'm going to use Command Shift U. It's a lot faster, and it just is something that is easier to remember to me anyway, but you can always go to the Image, Adjustments, Desaturate too. So now what we're going to do is we're going to utilize another duo of tools called the Dodge and Burn tools. And the Dodge and Burn tools are going to be located right here. Oh, not right there, right here. So first, what you're going to want to do is grab the Burn tool. We're going to go to our options bar up here, and we're going to set the range to shadows. And then we're going to keep our soft brush, and we could probably use about 65-ish too. And we're going to paint over most of Brandon, and we're going to darken him up. Just notice how everything is kind of getting darker. And then if you let go, you can even get a dark. Just keep adding that darkness by letting go and re-clicking. Just add more and more and more darkness. And I'm going to make him pretty dark looking. Okay, so now if you notice, kind of got a little carried away in some areas. And so to bring back the light, sort of, you can use the Dodge tool. Or you could always redo too. My feeling was I got a little too dark around his face. About right there, it looks like. So now you can really kind of tell how it's bringing back some of the light. But I don't really want that. I want it a pretty dark looking picture. So just do this to your liking, and I'm just gonna got a little too dark. I'm gonna make the shirt pretty dark for sure. It's just a lot of clicking and releasing seems to really bring out the darkness. I'm gonna leave it at that for right now, and maybe I might adjust it in a second here, but you can always play around with it however you want. Okay, so now we're going to add kind of a smoky effect to our background, and we're just gonna use some smoke to do it. Imagine that. So we're going to just use a stock image. And so I'm going to go ahead and find my image, which I've saved on my desktop. And I'm just going to drag it over. I'm going to drop it in up here. Actually, I wouldn't recommend doing that. I would actually, in this case, in the other case you would want to make it on your own because we had to make a selection. But in this case, I'd actually just drop it right onto the image. And you can position it. I'm going to position my first one right about there. And we're going to set the mode after accepting our position to screen, and that's going to take away the black in the background. I think I'm actually going to put this one maybe about here-ish. Okay, now that our smoke is in place, okay, actually I think I'm going to move, oops, don't need that layer yet. Okay, we're gonna move. I'm gonna actually start with the smoke over here, and what I'm gonna do is duplicate the layer by hitting Command J, and then I'm just gonna move this layer over here, and then what you can do is you can just kind of rotate the different layers so that they don't all look, so it doesn't always look exactly the same, because that's not really what you want. Kind of want it to look a little different. And I might even change this one a little more. I go with something like that. Sorry, I'm just trying to get it the way I want it. Maybe I do kind of want it just the same yet slightly rotated as such. Okay, I'm gonna, for this layer, what we're gonna do is we're gonna set the mode to color dodge. So it's kind of in the background, sort of. I think I might actually do that to the other one too. Oops, not linear dodge, color dodge. So theoretically, you could have done that before, but I wasn't quite sure that I wanted the color dodge for the first one, but I think it looks a little better. So you're going to do the color dodge for both of them, and you can also, what I'm going to do next is what you could do is do a slight Gaussian blur, and I might do it for just this one actually. So you go to blur, Gaussian blur, and then 10's a little excessive, maybe 3. Yeah, let's see how it looks for this one. Yeah, see, just Photoshop is just a lot of like seeing how you like it personally and just how you want it to look and just how other people may see it and they might like it in different ways, but really you just kind of want it to be the way you like it. All right. I'll be right back. Nope, not there. Oh, whoops. Okay. So, that's just about gonna cover it for this particular picture. I think maybe if I was gonna make some changes, I'd maybe make the Gaussian blur just a little bit, maybe a little less advanced. Then I might also, I'm not sure why it doesn't want to cooperate. But you could also like just change the smoke just around a little bit, just kind of to add a little bit of diversity between the two different areas of smoke, like the Gaussian blur, except I'd maybe try like a 1. Let's see what a 1 looks like. 2. A 2 looks okay. I might do the same thing for this one. So yeah, just make sure you kind of experiment and just kind of get it the way you want it to be, and just You don't have to always follow the same exact method as somebody else or whatever, but just kind of get it the way you like it, and then you'll have it. Alright, so now I'll be right back as I transition to our next image. See you in a second. Alright, we're ready to start our next tutorial over the sound of barking dogs. And we're actually going to directly edit a photo this time, and so I'm going to just drag in my photo into the workspace, and we have ourselves a little boy here. And we're going to copy the layer, Command J, and we are going to desaturate the layer with Command Shift U. Okay, now we're going to go to Image, Adjustments, and Shadows and Highlights. And we're just going to leave it at the defaults here, and that's just going to kind of lighten up the image, as you can see there. And now we're going to invert the image by hitting Command I. Okay, so now we're going to drag in a skull, a picture of a skull, and we're going to, you can use Shift to adjust it, to enlarge it, and holding Shift and then dragging it. I actually recommend lowering the opacity a bit, to about 60-ish. So now you can kind of see in the background, like kind of see how the face, how it would line up with the mouth and the eyes, sorta. So now, just get it as best you can to start out with. Command Z that, use Shift. Just kind of want to get it so that it kind of lines up with the mouth and the eyes just as best as you can. And go with that, I think. Then I think it went a little too far down. Okay, I'm just gonna go like that. Leave it like that. Okay, so now what you're gonna do is you're gonna go up here, and you're gonna select this, which is the warp mode. And so now you're going to reshape the skull as best as you can to fit contours of the face. Just kind of getting it exactly as how you want it. And it's usually gonna end up that you're going, whatever you're gonna move, up top, you're going to do the same, or on one side you're going to do the same on the other side. And so this just takes some time to get figured out, just the perfect way you'd like it. So I think that looks pretty decent for the most part. And so once you have it the way you want it, you just accept. Okay, so now we're going to do the same thing, except we're going to use skeleton, the bottom half of the skeleton to be more exact. Oops, didn't quite get it in there. And just do the same thing again. If it works, just drag it in and just kind of maneuver it down. And then again, use the warp tool, especially to get those arm bones out to the right sockets. Or where, not to the right sockets, I guess, but just where they would be normally. collarbone. It's funny because I kind of have to feel sort of on myself where my bones are. Might even actually move out a little bit. It just takes a lot of maneuvering just exactly the way you want it, sort of. It's not the easiest thing in the world by any means, but you just kind of have to experiment and just try and make sure you're staying centered, sort of. And I'm actually going to move, accept that, I think. And I'm going to move the skull, cancel. I'm actually going to move the skull in front of the skeleton, I believe. And I don't know, I think that's pretty decent. Might do a little bit of shifting. Oh, and to get to that, and to do the free transform, you have to hit the Command T, and then just remember to do the warp tool there. I don't know. This bone looks really big over here. Yeah. So there. I think that's probably pretty darn good. All right. So now, a good opacity for the skeleton would probably be about 50%ish. 50% about. And for the skull, maybe about 40. Okay. Actually, the skeleton does look a little light, though. I might move that up a little bit. That looks a little better. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to do Command Shift Option E. And that just made a snapshot of everything. It's like if we combined all the layers together, but this combines all the layers without actually combining the layers, sort of. Like it just takes a picture, basically. Now we're going to double click our snapshot here, and we are going to go to the color overlay over here, and we're going to click our color, and we're going to type in a code of 428E61. Okay? And you're going to change the blend mode to hard light. Getting spooky. And just hit OK. Okay, now you're going to go to filter and you're going to do a Gaussian blur of about 4. And this will sort itself out. You know, a little bit. It looks a little blurry now, but it'll be okay. And now we're going to change the blend mode here to hard light as well. And there you go. It's back. Now we're going to make one more composite snapshot with Command Shift Option E. Oops. Command Shift Option E. Okay. There we go. And now we're going to just hit Command Shift L to invoke auto levels. Not sure if that's quite what I wanted it to do, though. I don't know. I'm not sure if I'm a fan of that. I'm going to play around with it a little bit and I'll be right back. Alright, I think I have figured out our auto levels problem. So before you make the composite snapshot, we actually don't want this quite yet. We actually want to make a copy of that layer. So Command J will make a copy of it. And then hit Command Shift Option E and create a composite snapshot. And then Command Shift L to do auto levels. And it keeps that greenish color instead of just going to a grayscale, sort of. Basically, because of that extra layer, or not this layer, but this layer is actually keeping that green color while this one is just being, or maybe it's a combination of both. I don't know for sure, but it works. So that's going to do it for this creation in Photoshop. And I will be right back for the setup of our third creation, which is going to get a little more technical. Alright, see you then. Alright, I'm back and we're ready to start our third photo manipulation. So we're going to create a new canvas of 1200 pixels by 1200 pixels, so a square. And name it whatever you want, hit OK. So we've got our square here, and we're going to make sure that it's a white background because that's important. So we're going to bring in an image of a landscape, and I've got mine right here. And we're just going to fill the bottom half of the canvas exactly. Alright, so you just want it to make sure it's about half the canvas and it fills up the bottom half. Okay, so now on the image you're going to create a mask by clicking Add Layer Mask right here. And now we're going to utilize the gradient tool. And so it's right here. That's the rectangle tool, never mind. I always forget where it is. It's one of my, it's under the paint bucket tool. Okay, so under the paint bucket tool, or if it's already there, that's good too. So what we're going to do is we're going to use a black to 0% gradient. And to do that, we're going to make sure this gradient is selected right there. And we're going to click to edit our gradient. And a black to 0% gradient is this one right there, that preset. Okay, and then so now we're going to hit OK. Okay, so now from the top of the photo, you're going to hold the Shift button, click, and then drag to about where the mountains start. And that's just kind of gonna get rid of that kind of the top of the sky because we're going to end up creating our own sky. Okay, and which we're going to do that right now. So we're going to create a new layer, which is Command Shift N, if you were wondering, or you could just click down there. I'm going to use Command Shift N, actually, and you just hit OK when this little dialog box pops up. Okay, so first we're going to switch back to this, to our foreground, and we're going to change the foreground color to a 2C6AC2, which is a blue, and we're going to use the gradient tool to drag a gradient from about a third of the way down, say about right there, to about where the mountains are, and just make sure you hold Shift, and there you go. We're getting somewhere now. Okay, so next step, we're going to create another gradient, and we're going to create another layer. Command Shift N, hit OK, and ignore the screaming in the background, change the foreground color to 1C4379, and that's just going to create a darker blue, And we're going to do that from the top of the canvas here, and we're going to drag to about a third of the way down. And that's just kind of going to layer our sky a little bit. And I might even redo that a little bit too, actually. I might go a little farther. No, I don't know. I don't think I like that as much. Don't want it quite so dark. Okay. So now using that same color, we're going to come from here, from the top corner, and hold shift. And this is going to be pretty finicky, actually. And actually, no, that's not quite what I wanted. It just takes a little work, kind of, because it's not the easiest thing to do. And it might actually help here to not use the shift tool and just kind of draw gradient. It's just, I'm not sure exactly how I'm gonna want this. Just kind of experimenting with it is the best way to do it, I think, because it's not the easiest of processes. Tell you what, I'm gonna finish it a little. I'm gonna work with it a little bit, and I'll be right back when I've got a perfect with the look that looks right for me. Don't worry about it if it doesn't look exactly like yours. Just make it the way that feels right to you. But I'm just a little persnickety about it, so I'll be right back. All right, I'm back, and I think I've got it the way I want it. I just kind of added another gradient here, as you can kind of tell. Okay, so now the next step is going to be to add a couple of adjustment layers. And it's going to make it just look a little more kind of surreal, I would say. And so to do that, we're going to change, oh goodness sakes. Okay, so what happened is that I've done some things I probably shouldn't have. And that was, ignore the screaming once again, I've done all of my layers on the same thing, I've done all my gradients on the same layer, which is a no-no. Didn't look half bad though. I just wonder if it's going to matter later on, and just don't think I really want to test fate, I guess I would say. So I'm just gonna redo it here quick. Get to see how to do it again. Gotta check. Oh yeah, 2C6 AC2. And from about here, that looks a little better than the last one for sure. Okay, and then a new layer, and we're gonna change the color a little more. We're gonna make it 1C4379. And from about here. Alright, that looks pretty good right there. Okay, so now like I said, we're going to add some adjustment layers to make the image just look a little better. Sorry about that, by the way. I didn't want to do that, but it was kind of necessary. Okay, so now we're going to select our photo here, and we are going to go to this icon right here, which is our new fill or adjustment layer. We're going to choose hue saturation, and we're going to drop our saturation to -77. I can hit it right on the money. Yep, there we go. All right, now we're going to create another new adjustment layer, and this time we're going to choose gradient map. Oh dear. And we're going to make our gradient here. We're going to change the colors to, the first color is going to be a purple color, and that's going to be 9A00CC. And we're going to hit OK. Huh, that looks a little funky. So I might have to do a little maneuvering on that. Okay, so FF D 4 3D. That looks a little silly. But I think it'll work out if I adjust it here in a second. So hit OK and hit OK. And so now our gradient map is going to be our topmost layer here. And our hue saturation layer is going to be right about there. Which, okay, I messed up a little bit here, I think. So I'm going to go back a little, and I'm going to go here, and I'm just going to redo my hue saturation. Make this quick. The whole thing needed to be hue saturated, obviously, not just the picture. And we're going to gradient map. I have to redo the colors to 9A. Oops, I forgot to select 9A 00CC. And this one is going to be FF, gosh, I keep forgetting, FF D4 3D. Nice. Okay. So that's the topmost layer. That's the second layer. I'm not sure if I'm completely happy with that though. I'll be right back in a second. I'm going to do a little thing. Alright, I'm back, and I believe I found the solution to the problem I had. And that was that this is just a little too bright, and the easiest way to do that, obviously, would be to lower the opacity. And so I found that about 40 looked pretty good to me. Alright, so now we're ready to get back into business. And now we're going to actually start adding a few more elements to our image. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to bring in a planet, specifically the planet Mars. So we're going to drop Mars in there. Actually, no, that's not a good idea. Mars is going to be given its own window here, so we can cut Mars away from the black. And how are we going to do that? Actually, I'm going to try... No, that wouldn't work as well, I don't think. So we're going to use what we have is called our elliptical marquee tool. You can also hit U. Actually, we're not going to use the marquee. We don't want to make a selection. We want to actually make the ellipse. Okay. So we want the ellipse tool here. and we're going to select the paths icon up here under the options, and holding shift we're going to create our ellipse. And you can use Command T, and that will enable you to more easily maneuver the ellipse around the image. Oh, I just had it. Okay, that looks pretty good actually. And that was pretty lucky actually. I got pretty darn good. Okay. So now you just want to make sure that the edges all kind of line up as best they can. And like around here, there's a lot of darkness, so it's just get it the best you can. Okay. So now we're going to go back to our ellipse tool, and we are going to command click on our path. So now we've got our selection sort of around there. And now we're going to right click. We're going to click make selection to really make a selection, a true selection. And so now we're going to use the move tool by hitting V to drag our planet into our main canvas. Okay, and now we're going to use the free transform tool, which is again Command T, and we are going to rotate this planet a little bit like that. We're going to hold Shift to make it larger. We're going to make it large enough to fill the screen pretty well, but also so that it's not taking up too much. And we can use the arrow keys to make slight adjustments. And that looks pretty good right there, I believe. Another reason the reason we'd rotate is because some of those kind of dark and cut areas are now over here-ish and they're not in the image. And then this is also like the brightest portion of the planet too, and so that's kind of nice. Okay, so now we are going to drag our planet layer here so that it's below our two adjustment layers. First I have to accept, and then we are going to change the mode of the planet to overlay. So it's kind of set in the background, sort of. It's kind of cool. Yeah. All right. So now what we're going to do is we're going to add some things called layer styles to the planet. And so we're going to click on our Add Layer Style button here. I'm going to choose Gradient Overlay. And you're going to make sure that this is on the planet. So on our layer style, we're going to set the blend mode to multiply. We're going to change our opacity to 80%. And we're going to adjust the angle to -162. And we're also going to set the scale to 69. And that's it. So now we've got a lot lighter area here and then a lot darker area over here. Okay, so now back in the styles box, which I guess I could have done earlier, but right now you can just go back to this button here and click outer glow. And now we're going to adjust some of this. We're going to leave that to screen, but we're going to change this to 5. And we are going to have this button selected, and we're going to change it to a solid white. we're going to have the technique as softer, and we're going to change the size to 65 pixels. And we are going to leave everything down here the same, and we're going to hit OK. Alrighty, let's keep going. Sorry, just kind of thinking what I want to do next. Because now what we're going to do is we're going to kind of get rid of the tops and bottoms of the planet to make it look like it's kind of fading away in the bottom and the top. So first, we're going to add a layer mask onto our planet, which is right here. Yes, right here. So we have our mask. Now we're going to use the gradient tool, actually, and we're going to have a black to 0% gradient, which is already selected, and we're going to drag gradient from the bottom up of the planet for the bottom and from the top down for the top of the planet. And this is going to take a little experimenting too. So I'm just going to give it my best effort. That was a little too much. See, it's just going to be little finite little adjustments. It can be a little frustrating, but I think that one looks pretty good. Not too fond of that. See, what I don't like about that is it kind of cuts off a little more of this one, and so I just kind of want to focus just minutely, kind of getting rid of some of that top without taking too much away, which isn't always the easiest task. It just doesn't look quite round enough to me sometimes. In fact, I might not even use it actually, but if I can get it, I'll use it. It's just kind of painful. That doesn't look half bad right there. I'll be right back. Alright, I'm back, and I've got my two gradients all figured out, and I've played around a little bit and got it to the way I kind of wanted it. Alright, so now what we're going to do is we're going to add some stars to our image. So first, we're going to create a new layer. Oops, in the wrong program. Command-Shift-N. Okay. And we are going to move it just below our planet layer. Okay, so we're going to fill the entire layer by pressing Command-A, and then we're going to go actually do this a little differently. We're going to go to Image, or Edit, we're going to go to Fill, and we're going to go, oh my goodness, that's not what I wanted. Okay, so I'm going to change the foreground color to black. And then I'm going to go to Edit, Fill, use foreground color, and it's going to change it to purple, which isn't quite what we want, but we kind of want it. I'm gonna try it and work with it, and if not, I'm gonna do a little adjusting, but I think this is gonna work just fine. Then we're gonna go to Filter, and we're going to go to Noise. We're going to Add Noise, and we are going to have the amount at 100%. We're going to make sure that our distribution is uniform here. We're going to hit OK. And now we're going to go to our levels dialog box, which is Control Command L, Command Option L, actually. And we are going to change our input levels to 241. Oops. 241. Huh. That's curious. Doesn't. Well, I'm going to try and adjust the other ones and then go back. Okay. Now we're going to change our blend mode to screen. You can still see some of those stars in the background, which is good. And we're going to drop our opacity down to about 20%, which I'm not sure. I don't know if I really like that. I kind of almost want to leave it at 100. I'll be right back. Alright, I've done a little finagling and I figured out that the opacity is probably the best at 50%. And it may not look like it right now, but in the final product, once you export it as if you export it as a JPEG, which I haven't actually covered, and I think I will cover it as soon as I'm done with this photo, that it will actually look, the stars will look a lot better, and it's just because of the smaller, and I probably, even if we increased here, you can definitely see the stars, which is good. But it was kind of a little nicer at 33, so I'm going to leave it at 33. So now, just to make the stars a little more subtle, what we're going to do is we're going to go to our filter. We're going to do a blur. We're going to do a Gaussian blur of 0.3 pixels. And hit OK. And they just kind of toned them down a little bit. It looks a little nicer. Okay. So now what we're going to do is we're going to add some clouds to our image. And to do that, to begin with, we've got to bring in our clouds and just drop them in. And we can actually drop this one right into our image. And we want them positioned about, let me just kind of get it in the right position here. About like that right there. And you want to make sure that it's just above our newly created star layer. We're going to accept that right there. Okay, so we're going to add, now what we're going to do, we're going to add a layer mask to the clouds. Oops, I created a new layer. Command Z. Add a layer mask with this button. We're going to change our foreground. We're going to make sure our foreground color is black. And we're going to select the brush tool. And we're going to have a brush that is, we're going to have the brush hardness at 0. And we're going to want to have our opacity at 100% right here. And so now what we're going to do is we're just going to start slowly kind of painting away the area, the cloud area. And so I'm going to actually zoom in a little bit to kind of show what I'm doing. And it's just doing this is just going to slowly kind of get that background sort of away. And we only want some of these clouds. We don't want all of them. I'll kind of outline the ones that we do want. We want this one, this set right here, and we kind of want this here, and then we're also going to take this here. I'm going to zip around and just kind of select that much. Get rid of all of this. And just kind of smooth out this area here. And then we're going to drop the brush opacity down to 20%. Land it. Yep. And we're going to start just painting away the detailed areas. Just kind of leave the clouds subtle. Just kind of have some subtle looking clouds, and they're going to be pretty darn subtle. So just kind of just start taking that away. And the same with like the dodge tool and stuff, is if you click more is going to go away. It's going to take a lot. Rapid clicking sometimes is almost the best option. Which seems a little silly, but I mean, you gotta do what you gotta do. I might actually bring up the opacity just to expedite this process. It's kind of getting just a little on my nerves. This is kind of time consuming, but you just kind of got to do it. It's going to look pretty good in the end. Because our clouds are going to be nice and kind of just set into the background. And alright, this is a long one. I made any mistakes, there's no way I'm going back now because I've done quite a bit. Alright, that looks pretty darn good. So now we're going to use a similar method to bring in some birdies. So we're going to drag in our birds. If I can find the birds. There are the birds. And I'm going to put the birds over here. Right. Okay. Well, I don't want them right on the clouds, but I might have to move the clouds over slightly. The clouds might even be a little big, honestly. Yeah, I'm gonna move the clouds real quick. Cancel. I'm gonna move the birds down here a second. And then I'm gonna actually just select this layer. those up. Command Z. Gosh, I keep moving. The birds probably, I guess the birds probably need to be a little small. Don't want to do that. Kind of proportional. So perhaps like so. Just really trying to get this right, kind of the right way I want it. Sorry, I'm just kind of getting the way I want it. Just kind of making sure nothing's too crazy. I'm gonna go with that right there. We're only actually gonna use a few of these birds. And I might move them around too a little bit. So once again, just use the brush tool. Except for some reason, can't use the brush tool. And that's because you need to add a layer mask. Don't forget the layer mask. We might even need a little bit of a smaller brush, but the birds we're going to use are this guy, and not you, use that guy. I can use this guy. I can use this guy, not the other guy. Oh, just kind of just clear away all the background, unnecessary background. I'd try probably getting as close to those birds as you can to lessen the amount of time you need to brush them. Alright. So I'm going to set the hardness to 100 here, and I'm going to take the opacity down to 20 again. And I'm going to just brush those birds. And just really make sure that there's no extra darkness. Oops. I want to zoom in. Just kind of around the birds, you can kind of tell. I jacked the hardness back up to 100% because the birds just kind of look a little better that way. They just look a little more sharp. I'm actually gonna turn this opacity up and turn my brush down even farther. Just really get rid of that darkness around there. Oh, that was a little much. Okay. And I'm going to change the opacity back to 20. And I'm gonna make it 60 again. If I zoom back out, looks pretty good. So yeah, it just takes some time and just making sure you get it the right way you want it. Huh. Looks like I missed a little bit of the cloud layer here. So if I edit back and unless I'm seeing things. Huh. That's strange. It appears when I'm not zoomed in, and it disappears when I'm zoomed in. I don't know if I understand that. I guess I could try this brush. Ugh, whoops. In the clouds layer. There. Yeah, I really must just have missed that line down there. It's pretty crazy. And so, there's not really any. I got rid of all those dark areas, which is good. Okay, I think we're ready to move on. So, our next step is going to bring in another planet, and that planet actually really isn't a planet. It's going to be our moon. And we're actually going to do the same thing we did with Mars, and we're going to create an ellipse around the moon. Oops, I'm going to Command Z that, and I'm going to shift click. And then hit Command T for my free transform. And then just fit it as best I can. Sorry for the silence, I'm just trying to focus and get this close as possible. Alright, that looks pretty darn close. Okay, so now we're going to use the free transform tool, Command T. Oh wait, I'm already on the free transform tool, that's good. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to Command click, and then we're going to right click and do Make Selection. Hit OK, and then, oops, an ellipse, and just use the Move tool to drag our moon into the image. I might have got a little too much black, but I think it'll be okay. But if it's not, I'll just cut the footage and redo it. So, we're going to resize the moon so that it's about that about right there in our image, I would say. Except that. Okay, so now we're going to do is we're going to give it the same kind of glow that we gave that we gave Mars. So we're going to go to our adjustment layer and we're going to go outer glow, and then we're going to set that to 5. Make sure it's on screen. Noise at 0. Change this to white. And then we're going to have this at 65. Oops. And, oh, that was actually all we needed. Well, that's lucky. We just did okay. Alright. We're on our way. Next, we are going to go we're going to mask out the moon so it looks like actually a crescent moon, and we're going to do that by can't speak, by adding a mask, and then we're going to command click on the planet's layer right there, so a selection has popped up around it, and then we're going to click on the mask part of the layer, and we're going to fill it with black, and I believe we can use the paint bucket tool for this. Yep, that worked. So now we're going to hit Control Command or Command Shift D, Command Option D. Oh, not Command Option D, Command D. Command D. There we go. Okay. So now we're going to click the link symbol right here to separate those two, so that now we can move this here. And create our crescent shape. There we go. Moving along. Okay, so now we're going to go to Filter, Blur, Gaussian Blur. And we're going to set that to 20. It just kind of adds a faded look sort of to it. And we might even move it in a little bit too. No, that wasn't good. That's pretty good. Okay, now we're going to click on the moon part of this layer, and we're going to change it opacity to 70%. Okay, now what we're done with the moon, and we're going to paint in some stars. So we're going to make sure that our brush tool is selected, and we're going to create a new layer. Command Shift N. Okay. And we're going to paint some stars. Hardness needs to be 0, and for the size, it's only going to be 4 pixels. And we're just gonna kind of paint some around, except not black, with white, because they're stars. Yeah. Alright. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to make a shooting star. So for this, we're going to use the polygonal lasso tool, which is right here. And we're going to make a sideways cone shape. And to do that, we're just going to click, and drag. Okay, that wasn't quite what I wanted. The polygonal lasso tool is what we wanted, not the lasso tool. So we're going to just click, and click, and click. And just make sure and connect the dots. And then we're going to fill it with white with the paint bucket tool, which is yellow. But I think no, it won't work out. I don't really want it to be yellow. I kind of want it to be white, but I don't know if it's gonna work out. All right, we're gonna try it out. So Command T, and then it's kind of what we're gonna do is we're gonna make a thin layer, a little longer. More screaming. Okay, so we're going to angle the shape so the top part is kind of facing upwards, which I guess something like, which is like that. And now we're going to drop the opacity to 20%. And now, lastly, we can hit Command D now, or we're going to accept, and then hit Command D. And then lastly, we're going to go to Filter, Blur, Gaussian Blur, and we're going to add 1 pixel blur, maybe a 2 pixel blur. I'm just going to kind of like a 1 pixel, or maybe 2. Yeah, I kind of like 2. And I think we can even probably make it even a little thinner. Might even move the moon a little bit. I'm not too happy with the moon's position. The moon might be just a little in the way. Then when you move the moon, you also have to move the mask. Just move this one a little more. Okay. Now what we're going to do is we're going to create what's, I guess, kind of like a space dust sort of thingy. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to make sure that the foreground is black and the background is white, and then we're going to use the lasso tool instead of the polygonal lasso tool, and we are going to draw a lasso as such. Nope, I don't like that. I don't really want any sharp edges. Ignore the screaming. More screaming. Okay. Okay, so now we're going to use a feather of 50%. And we're going to go to Filter. We're going to go to Render. We're going to go to Clouds. And we're going to drop our opacity to... Oh no, did I forget? I guess that kind of worked. Oh, I don't know if I'm happy about that, actually. That's pretty obvious clouds. Okay, want the clouds gone. Lasso gone. Alright. I'm going to create a new layer so that clouds will actually look a little more realistic. Move it right in front of the planets. Now we'll get it. Now it should be okay. Feathers at 50, filter, clouds. And we're going to drop the opacity to 20. I'm gonna move it right there. I think that looks pretty, because it's kind of getting in the way of the moon, sort of, and I didn't really, I'm not sure I like that. So I kind of like it right there, actually. Okay, and now we're going to go to the landscape photo for our last thing, for our last objective. Command D, kind of see the clouds in the background, which is cool. Now we have our landscape photo selected, and we're just going to drop the opacity just a little bit to 80%. Just kind of give it a faded out look, kind of just how everything in the photo has. And that does it. That was a long time. But we've got a pretty awesome ending product. And now, I guess since I haven't yet, I'll show you how to save it. You would just go to Save, and you could choose to do it as a PSD, or you could change it to a JPEG, and you would just change it to what you want, and you click Save, but I'm not going to because I already have a lovely one already finished. And that's all there is to it. I will see you back here when I am ready for our final creation, I would guess. All right. See you in a second.